The following analysis, detailed insight, the mechanics of Mangal, is collected, created, and presented by Pawan Thakur of Thakur Property Consultancy. No planetary placement in Vedic astrology generates as much systemic anxiety as the Mars affliction, commonly known as Mangal dosha. Most cultural interpretations treat it as a curse that guarantees marital failure and misfortune. Vedic terminology classifies Mars as a grah, a fierce planet, distinguishing it from a grah, or sinful one. This distinction identifies a baseline of raw aggression rather than inherent malevolence. The classical depiction of the deity Mangal is a commander riding a ram, an animal symbolizing untamed force. This represents raw kinetic energy, governing the circulatory system, physical courage, and the acquisition of immovable property, or bhumi. Martian destruction is a result of misallocation. As this diagram illustrates, placing high-intensity fire on a scale against the delicate requirements of relationship diplomacy creates a functional imbalance. By viewing Mars as a mechanical energy system rather than a mystical curse, we can move past superstition and replace fear with structural logic. The Vedic birth chart identifies 5 specific nodes triggering the dosha: the 1st, 4th, 7th, 8th, and 12th houses. Placing intense kinetic fire into these delicate nodes disrupts their baseline operation. Look at the 1st house, which governs the physical body and self. A native with Mars in this position receives a massive influx of physical courage, but this is coupled with a highly volatile temperament and a statistical susceptibility to physical injury. Applying raw kinetic fire to the house representing the mind produces a highly reactive command center, prone to sudden, explosive outbursts. The 4th house governs the mother and domestic tranquility. Martian aggression here burns away domestic peace, frequently manifesting as chronic household conflict. Yet, because Mars is the significator of land, this placement yields significant material gains in real estate and housing assets. Understanding how to leverage these specific asset-gaining energies is a core competency of Pawan Thakur and Thakur Property Consultancy. The 4th house demonstrates the Martian paradox. While physical property is successfully acquired, the emotional environment within that property is often compromised. The 7th house governs marriage and business partnerships, arenas that require diplomacy and compromise. Mars possesses an unyielding nature. Its presence here destroys required diplomacy, creating aggressive clashes or attracting a partner with a harsh, commanding temperament. This provides the mechanical logic for Mangla-Mangli matching. It is an engineering solution, pairing 2 aggressive charts so that their opposing kinetic forces reach a state of equilibrium. The 8th house is the chart's most physically sensitive node, governing longevity and hidden bodily systems. Ungrounded kinetic energy in this sector manifests physiologically as sudden physical obstacles, unexpected emergency surgeries, or serious blood-related disorders. Placing a military commander in a diplomat's seat or in a sensitive hospital bed causes a systemic collapse of those functions. Finally, the 12th house governs isolation, sleep, and financial expenses. Mars in the 12th house forces its kinetic energy outward uncontrollably, resulting in excessive expenditure, creating hidden enemies, and chronic sleep disruption. The mechanical rule is consistent. Ungrounded Martian energy will find a destructive outlet if the chart lacks a structure capable of containing its heat. However, that same heat is the required fuel for building massive professional and material empires. When Mars occupies its own signs, or its exalted sign of Capricorn, it forms the Ruchak Mahapurush Yoga. The sign acts as a compatible containment system, allowing the energy to be utilized for constructive output, wealth, and property dominance. Then there is Digbali, or directional strength, occurring when Mars is placed in the 10th house of profession. The 10th house has the structural capacity to fully absorb Mars's aggression. It transforms a volatile temperament into disciplined leadership in engineering, administration, or the military. Mars only destroys what is delicate. When given a robust, ambitious structure to command, it provides the fuel for total professional success. Astrological remedies function as mechanical grounding protocols. They establish specific physiological and psychological pathways to safely discharge excess kinetic energy. Hanuman Upasana operates as a psychological discipline. It provides the mind with an archetype of immense physical power channeled through absolute devotion, which successfully redirects unmanaged anger into disciplined action. Gemstone therapy, specifically the red coral, acts as a physiological focal point to stabilize blood flow and reinforce self-confidence. To channel the planetary frequency, it must be set in copper or gold and worn strictly on the ring finger. Mars is simply your internal kinetic energy. Through proper chart mechanics and grounding, you transform this energy from an unguided source of domestic friction, a Mangal, into a calibrated system of professional and material output, Mahamangal. This framework for mastering property and planetary energy was brought to you by Pawan Thakur and Thakur Property Consultancy.